time we were dealing with this, we knew that the an issue, especially with respect to postgraduate programs. And then increase in library capacity. Well, later I will be talking about whether our regulatory agencies, whether the government or the professional bodies, whether they are a threat or an opportunity. The answer can be yours. I have concluded that I am more of a threat than an opportunity. And because this is where I come about, I've met with a lot of my colleagues that come from accreditation, and you want to impress them with with e-learning, and they are still looking for a physical library. So even some of our colleagues that come on accreditation, I sometimes am disappointed. I remember when I was given the assignment of chairing the accreditation team, we met with all the things that were expecting accreditation, their problems and others. And one of them said that they had accreditation, and then one of the members of the team went to the library and said, where is a book? And he was asking for a book library. Guess what happened? He's the author to that book. I said, but why did you ask? Almost anybody has heads of department. We have to be very careful, especially when we are expecting accreditation. We need to appoint people that can stand up to people that are coming. I said, look, if I was shocked, I was wondering if he was trained in IFE, because I knew the answer I would have given on the spot, that IFE has a book accreditation system. There can be only a reason where your book is not in library. It's not accredited. That's the answer I would have given him straight away, So, but when you sometimes, like I sometimes teach my HOD is the head of the department. He's also the messenger of the department. He's the one that runs around, does everything. Sometimes it's not good enough for accreditation. You need people with experience that can defend. And number of existing lecture theaters and laboratories, rehabilitators that we come from, and judge by ourselves. Now, unimplemented follow-up actions needed to ensure adequate implementation. One, as part of that plan, SP3, the university shall promptly set up a strategic planning unit in the Directorate of Council Affairs, which shall prepare biannual reports for the Congregation, Senate, and Council. I can assure you that no strategic planning unit was set up. There shall be a 7-man member monitoring and evaluation committee, which will include at least 2 members of the strategic planning committee, a representative elected by the Senate, the chair of the University Quality Assurance Committee, a non-Senate representative elected by the Congregation, a representative of students, and an external member of council elected by council. All the red paint, all the red front, shows things that were never done. And you can imagine we are talking about inclusiveness. That means our students did not have the opportunity of participating in that exercise. The University Quality Assurance, I stumbled on the document when council eventually resumed after the crisis. I think it came as matters arising. It was voluminous. And yet, no quality assurance unit was ever set up, or nobody was mandated to handle university quality assurance. Not to talk of incorporating the chair into this process. I'm saying this because these are areas for us to look at in the next dispensation. Also, I think the most serious one is that this clause was part of the follow-up implementation that is contained in SP3. Each academic, administrative, or service unit shall develop its own strategic plan, identifying with the set of broad objectives in the university plan and with an implementation framework that shall be the basis of progress reports to the monitoring and evaluation committee as may be required. This was never done. Okay? This was never done. And that will tell you what happened to the to the SP3. So the matters arising from this one, to answer the question as to why the implementation was low in performance. I think we've seen through. How do we improve on performance in SP4? That's the one I took the liberty to tag, like the Vice Chancellor was suggesting. And then what must we do differently from conception to implementation? Now, I think the Director Central Office will also pardon me, because maybe on the positive side, I'm flagging off this exercise on SWOT analysis. And I tried to do a mini SWOT analysis on why we didn't have a successful strategic plan. And of course, there are 4 issues there. Internal attributes in terms of strengths and weaknesses. If you like, you can change it to challenges. Okay, thank you. The strengths of this university are that we should not take for granted. Reputation. This university has a very good reputation. Then laudable ideas. They are the ideas that all of us have been coming up with in our units, faculties, and committees, and at Senate level. And enviably proud students. I've not seen any group of students that is enviably proud as that of OAU. I've not seen them anywhere. Okay. And then we have qualified, experienced, and committed staff. And our weaknesses, which we must own up to. You can call them challenges if you like. Lack of ownership of the plan at different levels of the system. We've heard from this previous, everybody has been talking about the performance in terms of the Vice Chancellor reporting. Maybe we should go a step further. Is performance in the terms of each unit reporting, not just the Vice Chancellor. So in other words, the Vice Chancellor cannot be held responsible for the success or failure alone. So it has to be each unit. And then lack of statutory mechanism to drive follow-up, monitor, and evaluate the plan. And then I think Professor Aderomu was reading my mind, weakened staff motivation. As autonomy erodes, the university has become helpless in instituting or implementing an internal reward or support system for hard work and ingenious contribution beyond the normal call of duty, thus weakening staff motivation. I mean, that is an issue. Then, of course, that is internal. When we look at outside forces, that is the environment. There are opportunities there. The opportunity paid, passionate, and generous alumni. I don't have to overemphasize this. We've seen it displayed. If we gave the Vice Chancellor even the opportunity to talk about it, he will spend more than 1 hour about how alumni have done it. I've witnessed many. Even, I don't know, if the provost of health sciences, yeah, there was a day we were having a meeting, and a class set walked up to him in the morning and offered to donate 6 million to renovate. I don't think you can have alumni that are more passionate. So it happens at every level, not just at institutional level. And even at institutional level, it's remarkable. Okay? But in turn, we owe them. We are still poor on transcript. We owe them, we should treat them with respect. You know? And then, energetic host community. For wanting of other words to say. Then we have a new government, and I see that as an opportunity. This is considered, in my opinion, as a timely opportunity for new engagement. Hopefully, it will appoint someone with passion for and a good understanding of education sector as minister. We had the last minister saying that he knew nothing about education when he took the office. Self-confession. Hopefully, has genuine commitment to addressing critical issues in the sector. Hopefully, understand the need to exert influence on regional and sub-regional bodies to fund and encourage education and research collaboration amongst member nations. Because, I mean, we all know about EU. EU even goes to the extent of extending to non-members. So you can imagine how powerful it is. The kind of grants that EU gives to their universities, university among EU, they are over €1 million. And they give to so many institutions. And there are times there to encourage collaboration between member nations, between their students, and things like that. So now, I wrote this down before our president became the chairman of ECOWAS. So I hope his engagement with ECOWAS will not be limited to opening border and closing border. I hope he will also use it as an opportunity to challenge them. We need to interact more. If you are looking for opportunity to rescue, pardon my language, I've apologized in advance. The most primitive, as far as I'm concerned, region that I know is ECOWAS. Because if you compare with South Africa and East Africa, if you know how much they pool resources, and because of that, they are able to network a number of services, and the external aid comes faster when you ask as a network. It's not difficult in East Africa or South Africa for an organization to say that, okay, I want to give this equipment to the region, but it can only be one. So decide among yourself where it will be located. But there are times others will have access. I can bet it with you. There will be a problem in Ghana. I've witnessed this before. Professor Faborode is not here. I mean, as Vice Chancellor, I was then the Director of Central Science Lab. He took us around on this committee of engineering companies and things like that. And when it came to hosting, you'll be surprised. The two contenders were almost fighting. Ghana and Nigeria. And that is not what happens among other nations. A number of, that's why when you visit their institutions, the contribution from their own government is minimal. Most of them are accessed through networking as a regional center. So I hope I know that some of us are APC registered members. So I hope we can communicate on our behalf. Now, there are threats coming from the external members. And to me, it's double jeopardy when you have an over-regulating proprietor that also wants to regulate the program. And I see it as over-regulation in many respects. I can give you examples that we know already. Okay, you want to grow IGR, and then all the money comes in, they are in remitter. That means that money cannot grow. In fact, I don't know the situation now. When I was in council, I was always asking the Vice Chancellor, almost at every meeting, that can you assure me that if a donor gives money to the university, that money is not going to be locked up in remitter and in central bank. If I remember my old level, I did school at economics. Central bank is not supposed to be a commercial bank. It does not give interest. So how do you fix donors' money? How do you put donors' money in an account that it does not yield? When it's all about perpetuity. I'm going to present, thank you for generosity, Vice Chancellor. I'm going to present a few case studies. Because we are now talking about endowment. There's no endowment in central bank. It's meaningless. You should be able to use your money, trade your money, and whatever it is. There's nothing wrong with that. We did that with Carnegie Fund. And Carnegie had no problem. I remember the document that Professor Mark Ojo allowed to sign. It included how the university will apply the interest that accrue from that account. I saw it. And to the best of my knowledge, there was no problem. Another lesson from the Carnegie that I learned is that sometimes we see the unions as only negative. And then one of those meetings, the program officer, Andrea Johnson, was around. And we do a lot of side talk anyway. So side talk, I don't know who else was with us. I said, you are even lucky. We are even lucky that you came at the right time. Because we are just lost on Mercator. Because our members were demonstrating, wearing placards, and nobody could come up. So Mercator could not even carry out their plan. That's why UI gained it. What we lost was what UI gained. So we said that, and she laughed. She said, I will tell you a secret. That one of the reasons why OAU was selected was because of the union. I'm telling you, that was not written anywhere. It was side talk. Of course, I was curious. I said, why? They said that you cannot have that kind of unionism in the university. and the vice chancellor will get away with embezzlement. That is not possible. And that is what the board, you'll be surprised. I wish you were around. I would have asked her, because I was there when she said it. So it's not all the time that unionism is negative. Okay. Of course, gross underfunding, and then strong competition from other universities for students, for staff, and for funds. We briefly look at each of them. Now, talking about students and our passion, I don't know how many of us saw this Twitter message. I don't know how many of us know Tolu Ogunlesi. He's about 40-year-old. He was a media advisor for the president. And on Twitter especially, I don't know how he felt. If I were to see him, I will ask him how he felt when his own immediate boss banned Twitter. I don't know how he felt himself. But you can see this is what he put to 4th June. You can check it there. The first executive order I'm expecting from the new president is one banning OAU students from singing their anthem anywhere outside their campus. Well, my point is that indeed others, like even our vibrant Tolu Ogunlesi, feel intimidated by the passion that OAU students and alumni demonstrate anywhere and everywhere. I see this as positive for our students. I can give you so many examples. Indulging in the cover that I got from the Vice Chancellor. About 2007, I got a mail from University of Sunderland from an international student officer. And he just said that he noticed that I written referees report for a large number of students. And that he noticed something about OAU students. And the next time he will visit Nigeria, he would like to visit the campus. And I contacted Professor Bodo Adediran, in charge of linkages. I said, we are going to have a guest, and he's going to be on your neck, and that you're going to host him. He said, fine. And he hosted him, and the man came here. And when they provided vehicle for him, he went around and all the rest of it. Then we had a group, I think dinner. I think we were not more than 6 or so. And he was now talking that actually what happened is that if OAU students were different, that they were so proud, so passionate of their university, that in fact, anytime he was in a gathering of international students and he felt that the place was too dull, he would just say, please, excuse me, which one do you think is the best university in Nigeria? Is it A, B, and then the place will be overwhelming. OAU, OAU, OAU. He said he had to be asking himself, what is it about this OAU that they are so passionate about? And that he had come himself and seen. That's why you can see what, I think the punishment the Vice Chancellor can give to Tolu Ogunlesi is to invite him for convocation so that he participate in singing the song and purge himself. Ministry of Education, an opportunity and on a threat to the plan? Well, the answer is yours. If only the Education Ministry is led by a minister or ministers, passionate enough to caution at FEC meetings that the ostensible obsession for infrastructure development without concurrent passion for quality education of the youth can only produce the result predicted by a Yoruba proverb. I don't know if I translated well. The infrastructure we are building will be destroyed by the mass of our troubled youth that we have failed to build. And that is true. And I took that from what I saw in Fashola and Rotimi Amechi. You could not doubt that they were so passionate about their portfolios. In fact, Amechi will not mind if you continue to borrow from China, even if you put as collateral every citizen of Nigeria, he will not mind at that time. And Fashola was the same. In fact, Fashola made a statement that I almost hated him for it, that people were cautioning about borrowing. He said, I remember him saying that that was one of those back-sitting professors. And that will just tell you the passion they have for the office. So what did we have our own minister doing at FEC meeting? To defend education. Because that is the place. It doesn't matter what the NUCES does or knows. He's not a member of FEC. So I'm praying and hoping that we have a minister that advocates for education. Now, the SWOT analysis is not just an exercise. It is an opportunity to deploy our strengths and leverage our opportunities to eliminate, bypass, or mitigate our weaknesses and threats. Otherwise, writing a strategic plan becomes a simple ritual with so much movement, but without motion. Now, stakeholders. Talking about stakeholders, a maxim in drug quality assurance says that quality is not added to a product, but must be built into it. Borrowing from that, I would say that stakeholder engagement must be built into the process of developing the next stage strategic plan, rather than waiting to engage them only after the final documentation of the plan. It is commendable that this interaction has brought some selection of stakeholders together to flag off the process. Still on stakeholders, my experience with OAU is that it's rich in the committee system, which others sloganize as bottom-up. But I know that sometimes we have problems with it. We can say that it is frustratingly slow. But my advocacy here is to say that rather than jettison the rich tradition, which engenders a genuine sense of belonging and ownership without any strategic, without which any strategic plan remains a mere document, I think we should find a way of fast-tracking it. Okay? And how do we fast-track? How about using existing external representation on various academic and faculty boards to engage some of external stakeholders? Some of our faculty membership include external members, professions, and things like that. Why don't we use it as an opportunity to engage them? How about deploying our excellence in ICT to engage other stakeholders, including those in diaspora? How about continuously engaging our different categories of students beyond the initial flag-off meeting to demystify the issue? And it's obvious that when they are closer, when they are involved, they eventually become reasonable or be realistic with the facts. Of course, what are the stakeholders that we're talking about? This is not an exclusive list. Student, staff, academic, non-academic, students, undergraduate and postgraduate, students on non-degree programs, because that is even becoming our cash cow. There are so many programs that are not degree programs that we are running as an attempt to make money on our own side, also to improve on their own skill and performance. Okay. And then alumni, to include, I deliberately put hand in bold to remind me. I don't know if our alumni database includes those who have postgraduate degrees from this university. If we don't have, that would be a serious, serious mistake. Okay? And like we see from the little examples I've selected, the benefit is enormous. There are benefactors, the host community, in terms of state government, local government, traditional authorities, industries, professional bodies, and even the informal sector of the economy within and outside the campus. Now, talking about key issues, the first one to me is competitiveness. Attracting postgraduate students from national, regional, and international spheres. Because if we are going to rank, these are elements of institutional ranking. Attracting visiting scholars, fellows, and academics. Attracting and retaining qualified, committed, and motivated staff. I don't know what the attrition rate has been. If we are to draw attrition rate for this university in the last 3 years and project ahead, I don't know what it will look like. I don't know the implication of it for program accreditation in the next 2 years. And then fund institutional visibility, which is a major component of ranking. And then funding. Funding is a star issue, which we'll talk about again. And then graduate prospect or graduate employability. Those are the 4 issues I've been talking about. Now, to buttress the issue on competitiveness, we can see the development of private university, how they have gradually taken over. You can remember when Professor Bamiro was asking, how many universities did you have altogether? I updated my data yesterday night. I had to do it because I know that yesterday, another university in our cocoa was approved. So I don't know what the current, so I had to update it. That's why I knew the figure. I was answering him 259. But what does that mean? 57% of the universities in Nigeria are now private. Next, they are the state university. So we have 20. Only 20% as federal universities. Then institutional visibility. This is an issue that the university can no longer ignore. The new strategic plan must address correcting the underscoring of OAU in local and international ranking system. I don't know how we feel when we hear that Covenant is #1 university in Nigeria, Abuad is ranked OAU. You and I know that it is not true. But then, nobody has tied the hand of Ife to supply and project his own data. So, we have a responsibility. Otherwise, all the reputation that we take for granted, it will soon disappear. Even small ranking like the most attractive university for JAMB applicants, it has been learning for the last 10 years. And Ife is struggling to maintain 1 to 10. I think 7 in the last one. Okay. So why are people not attracted to Ife? You know, unlike in the past, you see parents coming to us to say that, coming from all over Nigeria, say that I don't know why my daughter wants Ife. I don't know what's wrong with other university, and they will be saying it. So those ones who are seeing what we are not appreciating. Now, there are 3 models that I want us to look at here. The South African model of publication incentive, well, which is out of consideration because it's entirely funded by South African government as a deliberate policy. Then the UI model, I don't know if they recognize it, but my knowledge of it is just as an external assessor for professorship. Nobody pursued publications to me. They have a database for everything. In fact, the candidates, as part of the promotion process, will have uploaded all publications, including highlighting all the parameters. And that database belongs to the university. So, for the university to harvest or to use it to collect data is not a big deal. And they just give you a window as the external assessor that you can access this between this date and that. If you exceed that date, you have to beg, even as an assessor, you have to beg to access. So it's protected to that extent. So I can see where, because we are talking about where their data come from. So, but here, what do we have? The director of computer center, director of Inteku, begging and pleading that we fill forms, we do this or this and that. But if it's part of the process, this needn't happen at all. Process from employment. That's why I was also talking about record. You remember, sir, what it was when we were doing JAMB addition, when we have to be re-entry data. Sometimes you enter the registration number, and then you mistake a character, I for 1, or 1 for I, and then when they take the JAMB, they said, not registered. But immediately, JAMB did the one that the student, the only error that can come is that the student makes, or the applicant makes, and you're only harvesting them. So it becomes error-free. So if JAMB could do that, I think that's what we look for. I suspect that that was what the Dean of Technology, Professor Aderomu, and maybe Professor Pabori were talking about before, that they intended to do. It's actually mainstreaming it into the management of our operations, not as a standalone database. So that anybody coming in, don't worry about those who are going out. I mean, everybody will go to eventually. But you can have a new culture that you can build on. So that's what as we say about the UI model. Then I talk about a revisit of a recommendation in OAU's 4th inaugural lecture of 1972. And the summary of this is that mandating a publication in print in an accredited journal in partial fulfillment of the condition for the award of a PhD with gradual migration to PhD by publications model is long overdue. With respect to this, okay, let me talk about the South African model first. It is the government that provides the money. It was deliberate to improve research output. And they give as much as, it varies from year to year, but about 100,000 1,000 rands per publication or per chapter in a book or conference presentation. And it's shared among the universities. And then it's a lot of source of fund. That's not the only way South Africa funds its institution. It's just an extra way. And the sharing formula of that of University of Johannesburg, it varies. But you can see, most of the money comes back to the institution. 10% allocated towards global and excellence initiative of University of Johannesburg, funds 2 positions in the research office, then the balance is shared 1-to-1, and the 50% of it is paid to the faculty, while the other 50% is paid to their university research committee. So how does the faculty share it? That flows down back to the author, into the research account of the author. It varies depending on whether the publication is the status of the journal in which it is published. And you can see something that is even very interesting to us here. The maximums even goes to when it is co-authored with a collaborator from the top 100 universities in the QS ranking, with provision made for some cash payment to the author. But here, if I may borrow the word of Professor Akomu, it is paradoxical. If you are rewarding people for publishing with a co-author, and you are down scoring them for the same parameter during promotion, I hope I'm communicating. It's very, very, it's strange. So whereas they see it as positive, then provision is also made. I think this will make the Provost PG College happy. It's also made for postgraduate supervisor and student premised on completion of the postgraduate program within the minimum regulation duration. I'm sure the Provost PG College will be happy with that. Now, the one that I want to torture him with is the one I'm projecting. This is contained in the inaugural lecture given by Professor Orsted in 1972. I don't want to waste our time. Otherwise, I would have read the entire page. He beats up his case, while concluding with a promise. And maybe the Provost PG College will answer that, not as provost, but as a professor of zoology. Because Professor Orsted was professor of zoology at the university. It is our hope that all research conducted in biological sciences, for either in field or PhD, that insertion is mine. We have to be written up in a form suitable for publication. If not already published, such papers should be in press, or at least have been submitted to a reputable journal. By this means, a return for the large financial outlay will be guaranteed, and the candidate will be trained to conduct research realistically. So my recommendation is this, that it's long overdue for us to adopt what was recommended as far back as 1972 as the 4th inaugural lecture of OAU. Funding, well, that's always the major issue. Perhaps the most contending issue of the day is funding. It remains to be seen if the government will go all out to leave the universities to charge economic fees or play cheap politics. I'm happy that Professor Bamiros also called it politicization. Politics by insisting that no tuitions are chargeable, while at the same time not providing for the survival of the university. Apparent that the government is gradually disowning or neglecting its own institutions, while at the same time establishing more to share in the paltry resources allocated to higher education. We need to look at some successful model outside our shores and address the survival of OAU in the new strategic plan period. Well, we always talk about what happens everywhere. The US case is very simple. No university is owned by the federal government, by US government, except special ones that are like military and police institutions. And the categories of universities are state-owned, which are usually incorporated as autonomous, and then private, non-for-profit, and private profit. If I were the Minister of Education today, that's the first thing I will do. That I will not grant access of government funds to universities that are registered for profit. I will give them license. There's a difference. And it's a lot of responsibility because as of now, you don't know who owns what. You have not seen their books. You have not seen their property. You don't know what will happen after the excited founder. You know what will happen with the second generation. I mean, the successor may decide to sell the institution or sell properties of the institution or insist that their father will the building to them. You know, there is a lot of responsibility that goes with non-profit organization. I mean, it's a lot. So, and then let's consider Harvard, because everybody talks about Harvard. Is ranks number 1 to 5 in almost every ranking, okay, and consistently too. And it's the oldest institution of higher learning in US, established as New College in 1636 to train clergy by the colony of Massachusetts. So it wasn't even, it was a state university, if you like. And renamed Reverend John Harvard after John Harvard, after its first donor. So Harvard did not own the university. It was just the first donor to the institution. It was just patriotic to an institution in his state. What was a colony then? And you can see the sources of income. Endowment income made available for operations. Just like Professor Bamiro said, we have to understand the concept of endowment. Endowment is not the money you spend. On the other hand, you spend the returns from the endowment. Of course, it's not an endowment if it is not convertible to currency, if there's no financial value. And what was allowed for them in the budget of 2022 was 2.1 billion. That is from the income earned by the endowment, not the value of the endowment. And then tuition, okay, you can see what we are missing on. Tuition is 21%, research and the rest of it. And then you can look at expenditure, salaries, space, depreciation, other operating expenses, all accounted for. I did not, this was not a confidential report. It is on their website. Okay. Now, the Vice Chancellor or the President had this statement. Even with endowment support, Harvard must fund nearly 2/3 of its operations from other sources, such as federal and non-federal research grants, student tuition and fees, and gifts from alumni, parents, and friends. Now, this is very, very thought-provoking to me when I saw this on their website. We are pleased to announce that beginning in the 2023-2024 academic year, families with annual incomes of up to $85,000 will be expected to contribute nothing to the cost of their child's education. They added further, when you qualify for financial aid from Harvard, we'll create an individualized aid package to meet all your demonstrated needs. This may include scholarship funds and student employment, as well as any scholarships we have earned from outside sources. Parent and student loans are also available for interested families, although we will never require you to take out loans. This is what they are publishing to their prospective students. I mean, this is the kind of, I wish we could be Harvard, even if it's going to take 50 years, in this respect. Even telling the incoming students that we never, the loans are there. If we could tell Ashiwaju that I will never need to take your loan because I'm going to OAU. You know, that is what we should aspire to be. And then again, you can see that it's not a game of number. I think Professor Bamiro emphasized it. You can see the student population, 31,345, out of which only 9,000, this is the latest figure, 2022, out of which only 9,500 are undergraduates. The rest are postgraduates. So when we talk, that was, I was emphasizing that about alumni. When you talk about Harvard alumni, you are talking about mostly those who have postgraduate program there. So our alumni cannot exclude those people, and we have a lot of them. Well, I will just go over this just to say that I picked one that is private. This is a public one. California, state of California, has an higher educational system. They have California community colleges. I'm sure we know what colleges are in the US. Some colleges can award up to first degree, but no more. Okay. And then California State University, they still have it. And they have what they call University of California system. Actually 10 universities in one. 9 of which are research university awarding up to PhD. We know so many of them: Berkeley, San Diego, UCLA, San Francisco, and all the rest of them. Their governance system is highlighted. But you can see the endowment for the individual institution range from 26.9, lower 269 million to 6.9 billion. Berkeley. That's the endowment of each institution. On average, University of California Research create average of 5 inventions per day. Nobel laureates by affiliation is always staff and alumni. It's 204, with UC Berkeley accounting for 110. So we are not surprised that UC Berkeley is featuring in 1 to 10 of all the top rankings, even though it's a state university. Well, the sources of income, just to highlight that the core incomes are from what we call general funds, are the funds that come from the state. The state, the fact that is autonomous in a way does not mean that the state does not fund it. In fact, state funds it 2 ways. The money they allocate to the university and the scholarship they pay for Californian students. And then, of course, tuition. All the others are regarded as non-core sources of fund, although they are the contributory. Then the UK experience, Oxford, as an example, Oxford has continued to feature #1, rivaling with MIT and Harvard in almost all parameters. It describes itself as a public and private university, as it receives some government funding, though it is entirely self-governing and can lawfully reject government funding, though expediency dictates otherwise. We will refuse extra funding. And something came up this week from the UK Prime Minister. He said this: too many young people are being sold a false dream that going to university will give them the skills they need to get a decent job. They are being saddled with tens of thousands of debt from bad degrees that just leave them poorer and dissuaded them from pursuing more vocational options because they are led to believe that university is the only route to success. It is not fair on them, and it is not fair on the taxpayers, forced to pick up a big chunk of the bill despite getting nothing back for our economy. That is, I didn't name anybody, so nobody can talk about libel. But that's what the PM said this weekend. Of course, it's controversial, and a lot of citizens are taking him up on it. But there are things that we must pay attention to. With more costs expected to be passed on to the student or sponsor, attention must focus on employability or cost benefits to the student on graduation with respect to type of courses offered, academic content of courses, and the learning environment. So if the student has to pay, then it has to be worthy the cost for him. Okay? Or if he's going to take a loan, it has to be worth it for him. As market forces become dominant, some courses may find it hard to get students unless deliberate efforts are made to integrate appropriate and relevant entrepreneurship modules and immersion/internship into individual programs and support with mentorship beyond the mere floating of entrepreneurship as courses outside the program of the individual student, simply to the fancy of NUC, the government regulating agencies. I feel strongly about this, so I'll put it as blunt as I feel. I think you will pardon me. I cannot justify why anybody will go through a FAST-BC program and we are teaching him how to sew clothes. I think it is better for me to train him how to set up his own there are elements that are general that we can take up for everybody. But the point is that We have to look at things we can introduce into the individual program selectively. And it goes for any program. Performance arts. You see a lot of African magic that are looking for, the presentation shows you that they are looking for experts. You can commercialize your expertise. You can do they know how to set up, do they know anything about corporate affairs commission? Do they know how to set up business? Do they know anything about bookkeeping? Do they know about anything? It can be done for virtually all courses. And I mean mentorship, because if I borrow from the experience I witnessed sometime, University of Babcock was always boasting at graduation about how many of their students are already chartered accountants. So yet we offer degree in accounting here. To what extent, do we mentor them towards taking professional exams? And I mean it seriously. A lot of our students are taking it from related courses, economics, Greek economics. But here they both, in fact, they go to the extent that when they take some exam, they provide the boss to take them there. So if they look up to the fact that they be qualified accountants within 1 year or 2 years after graduation, that's what I mean by mentorship. That is more time useful than him learning to be a mechanic. I hope I'm communicating, okay. So, of course, we still need entrepreneurship for others that need vocational training or to divert from what they learned before. But it goes for everything, even law. I mean, you can have to set up a chamber, the costs and all the rest of it. Almost, I cannot imagine any profession that you cannot commercialize in present day. Okay. So, finally, I will go to summary of my recommendation. All stakeholders must be involved at all stages of the planning, utilizing external membership in our various faculty, college boards, and our excellence in ICT to engage the various external interest groups. The university must immediately establish the mechanism to drive implementation, evaluation, and monitoring. Each administrative academic service unit must domesticate the eventually approved strategic plan. I believe that what we call strategic plan is even at best a framework, and identify or develop its own specific action plan with measurable targets, timelines, and milestones incorporated into the template for reporting to the University Council through the M&E committee. Without this component, the strategic plan is not deemed ready. With uncertainty in funding, the SP4 must address efficiency in services to reduce costs and revisit the concept of endowment with emphasis on perpetuity and the far future, separate from other forms of gifts and investment. In fact, what I've seen is that they hardly release more than 5%. It's not true that you don't, well, maybe in Harvard they don't talk, but in Harvard they release, I've just shown you the figure. So, but they release from the income generated for that year. They release even a portion of it and save the rest back. That's how they grow it. So it's supposed to grow over time. So if we expect a large endowment fund in 50 years' time, this is time to start growing one. The experience from looking at the Harvard University in the US and the Russell Group of universities in the UK is to recognize postgraduate research as the main driver of research and innovation, with prospects of commercialization. So hence, SP4 must attend to the long dream of reversing the current ratio of undergraduate to postgraduate students. Without meaning to be offensive, it's as if we are actually subsidizing our undergraduate program from the postgraduate fees that we collect. Even in UI, I can give you evidence. When they write letter to you in UI, even for undergraduate, you will see that there is postmarked PG college. So meaning that it's the PG college that is funding the undergraduate program, is subsidizing the undergraduate program. So in other words, we can gradually reduce our burden of undergraduate program. SP4 must address raising the institutional ranking through visibility. The SP4 must guide the university to improve the prospect or employability of the graduates of each program through deliberate efforts of integrating relevant and appropriate course modules and immersion or internship opportunities into the individual program to attract students into the program and justify the huge cost spent by student, government, or sponsor. Customer satisfaction is imperative, and it is a component of most ranking systems. Well, I acknowledge the chairman of the strategic committee, and of course, I appreciate the management headed by the Vice Chancellor and the Governing Council, which we are missing now. That's also part of the problem. That's why when I say that the government, sometimes, I don't know whether a threat or a support. I know that ASU fought for it one time that you just don't dissolve Governing Council. After all, how many members does the government appoint? Most of the members are statutory. But you can see the implication now. We are doing strategic plan, they are not part of it. Well, the Vice Chancellor will have a lot of tasks bringing them in when they come on board. My conclusion, like I promised, is just one statement: to thank you for your patience and hoping you also make contributions. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. Please, another round of applause for Professor Olugbade. Thank you for your... I think you will sit, sir, in anticipation for questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we have gone far, and the day has just begun. So I want to encourage you to sit tight for questions, sir, right? Just hold on, sir. Because of the time, we will need to combine some activities. Chairman, sir. 1 minute, sir, please, just 1 minute.
Yes, thank you.
So we are making some adjustments, but the chairman of this session, before he takes his leave from the table, will make a few comments. Professor Olugbade, sir, you will still remain on the high table, please. Chairman, sir.
Thank you very much. I just want to especially thank Professor Olugbade for this heartwarming and educating presentation. Sir, when I joined the university system, you are one of those that serve as a role model to me. You may recall it, sir, that almost all the documents that are not readily available at the registry that I needed as a young scholar in this place were gotten from you and Professor, the other person, Professor Bolaji, what gotten from him and Professor Bolaji. So thank you very much, sir. So you have done a round of applause for Oga. So you have done so well that you must know that OAU know they carry last. We are going to ask questions. There are questions, but I'm not going to be able, because of time, to give the synopsis of what you have presented. So I will allow the MC to invite the next officer to this seat, where I take my seat down there. When it is time for me to contribute, I'll contribute. A round of applause for Prof. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, let's appreciate our chairman of this occasion. Thank you, Professor A.M.O. Daramola. Okay, O.M.A. O.M.A. Daramola, thank you, sir. Okay, we are going to activity 2, but before I call the facilitator for activity 2, I would like to invite to the high table the moderator for activity 2, and he's in the person of the registrar. Yes, sir, it's you. I would like to ask you to come to the high table, sir. Yes, you are the moderator for activity 2, sir. The registrar of this university. Should we balance by asking him to sit there? Please, you can sit there, sir. Or, okay, he will feel lonely. Okay. By popular demand, sir. Please come, yes, come this way to join at this section. Thank you very much, sir. That's Mr. K.A. Bakare, the registrar of Obafemi Awolowo University. You're welcome, sir. So he will be moderating activity 2. In the same vein, I'd like to invite the chairman of session 3, Professor O.A. Showande. Kindly come to the high table also, sir. Sorry, there's a slight change of program, but you will understand why shortly. Okay, so Professor Showande, please a round of applause as he joins us up here. Thank you very much. I would like to ask our discussants to get ready. So we will take the activity 2, which will be moderated by the registrar, and shortly afterwards we will take session 3. Session 3 is a pre-recorded presentation by Professor Mrs. O.I. Aino. The chairman of the session will advise on how that session will run. We will play a first phase of that presentation, and we'll take all the questions together after the session 3. Without wasting time, please. Our speaker, I wanted them to usher him from the Professor. I would like to ask Professor A.I. Akinyemi, please come forward to the high table also. Executive Director, Central Office of Research. He will be taking activity 2. He's the facilitator. So, and he will be taking this next session. Your presentation is here, I believe. What are we taking up? Activity 2. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Professor A.I. Akinyemi to take this session. Kindly come forward, sir. Moderator, sir, I hand over this session to you.
Permission to start, sir. So let me greet everybody again. Is it good afternoon or good evening now? But I mean, I'm greeting everybody. Again, to thank the organizer for this great opportunity. Professor Olugbade, is always nice listening to you. We continue to pray that your tribe will continue to multiply even our midst. Prof is a great man. And I was just discussing with the chair that Prof already did a thorough presentation on SWOT analysis. I was just thinking we do the grace. And there we go. So my thinking around this is just to present generally a kind of overview of doing a SWOT analysis. And I'll be talking more in terms of the other domains that people will be writing on. But again, to thank Prof for the excellent discussion around this. Okay, so these are the four issues I have in the outline. First, about talking generally about the higher education in the 21st century, and I think Professor Bamiro spent quality time to discuss this, so I won't be wasting time again on that, and also just to talk briefly about what is the importance of doing a self-assessment, either we call it SWOT or SCOT or whatever thing we are going to be calling it. Then to take a very good example, again, that's what Professor Olubade also presented. If we are looking into the region and say we want to be relevant, providing leadership in terms of scholarship, in terms of research in the region. So I picked some issues from what we submitted to the World Bank, and just to discuss that, and just to have some concluding remark. Okay, so I won't spend too much time on this, just again to buttress the context that Professor Bamiro already presented. And that's about the need for a paradigm shift, particularly in higher education. Things continue to change constantly, and as a university, it's not ideal to say this is how we do things. It doesn't make any sense any longer. It should be how should things be done, in a new way. So we were with the Vice Chancellor of very recently, I think that was last week, trying to present some issues led by Professor Ogunlosi, and I think the DVC admin was there too. How university in the 21st century should think about. We came into this system with a language of you either publish or you perish. But things are changing. It's not about publishing and perishing. So what does it take for a university to thrive? So we need to continue to even engage, some of those words. And we are saying you have to innovate and do what? And you flourish. So university now is not about publishing and perishing. Universities are moving far. I mean, we saw what Professor Olubade presented. Publishing will not get to that kind of funding. There's a lot of innovation that gets those kind of funding. So the 21st century generation is more about innovation. It's innovation that drives the university, and that also should reflect in our way, of doing business. The university should be a transformative and universal outlook. I mean, it's not more just that you want to come and earn a degree. You're earning a degree to transform many things. And I love the example Professor Olubade gave in terms of entrepreneurship training. Should it be about the same thing, that just for you to do mathematics, etc., or that you are powered, to transform, either for economic transformation or for even other developmental indicators? So a university must therefore get to that level to think what type of transformative ideas that we are bringing, not just to students, but even to staff and even to other stakeholders that we have to get. Again, I want to thank you, sir, for that idea to say that things are changing, and to say that you are a researcher because you are a single author or you work alone. It doesn't fly anywhere in the world. It doesn't fly any longer. People look into even the quality of the person you are partnering with. So for OAU to think that what we said 20 years ago, we have to enforce it here. Again, we have to start to think, is that the ideal way to go? It's more now in terms of collaboration, And so we need to also look into some of those systems, as Prof rightly mentioned. And so how do we therefore imbibe, that language of collaborativeness? Again, we need to be dynamic about some of those things that we do. But doing all of those, again, the issue is about standard. It's about cutting edge. You are not doing this to lessen the standard. You are doing it rather to improve on the standard that we have. Again, as Professor Bamiro mentioned, it's a whole lot of issues about balancing. Balancing in teaching, in research, and also in service. I won't want to spend too much time on this. So this, again, is just about almost all those issues that we discussed, from Professor Bamiro to Professor to our Prof here. Yes. So what is therefore is a SWOT analysis, or a SCOT analysis, as they call it in Ibadan? With just a simple language that provides the opportunity for institution, for system, to have what is called a self-reflection, In modern day language, you say you cannot make progress unless you're able to think and say, where am I coming from? Exactly where am I going to? So it provides that kind of opportunity, therefore, for a self-reflection, for a system to analyze, to assess and reflect on the operating environments. And we are considering two things, those that are internal and also those that are external to us. So we want to be able to identify what's our strengths, what's our weaknesses, what opportunities do we have, and also what threats do we have. So for strengths and weaknesses are things that we look in within our internal lens, and for opportunities and threats, you look at it within the purview of your things that are outside to the system. So in a nutshell, I mean, this is like the way we do it, to look into what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, the opportunities and the threats. But I just want to make a quick remark here to say, even in the language of inclusion, it's good for me to give credit to one of my mentors, Professor Mrs. Aino, because when they were doing the first strategic planning for the university, she called many of us. I mean, that was 2002. I was still doing my PhD then. So she told us that we will need to do the SWOT analysis for some of those indicators. We don't know what a SWOT analysis was. So she asked us to go and do that for her, and we spent quality time to do that. So even as we prepare for this, as the previous speakers have also mentioned, we should have this forward-looking, and see also that we engage, particularly those that we call the early careers, so that they get involved even from now, so that in another 10, 15 years, many of these things also will not be too strange to them, because even now they're already part of it. So in essence, this is what we try to look at: self-assessment and reflection in terms of our strengths and weakness, opportunities and threats. And as I said, I will also show that again, that the strengths and weaknesses are things that are internal to us, opportunities and threats are things that are outside. As presented by other speaker, this is what we have in the last strategic plan that we have for the university. So one of those key issues we need to see is that to do a SWOT analysis, there must be something that drives us. So when you have a statement like this, as mentioned by Prof, and he also show even more details, is that the strategic plan is focused towards a particular direction. So within those directions, it's therefore for us to identify for each of those domains. And I'm going to speak briefly about the case of Malaysia. I was reading a lot about the university in Malaysia, because when you go into SWOT analysis on the internet, you are likely to see a lot of universities from Malaysia, that they've even published, a lot of issues. So, but thank God for Professor Bamiro today that mentioned why they needed to do that. Because with what happens to them, they are more concerned. And so they did a lot of study. You see more than 20 articles, that they published from universities in Malaysia looking into the SWOT analysis of some of those issues that they address. So what I saw that was, I think as a university we should copy, is that they listed each of those domains, in teaching excellence, for instance. They listed their points, and they were able to develop metrics to score each of those points. So I think as a university looking forward also is for us to look into some of those things that have been done, and look into what we can also address learning from the experience of these other universities. I will just be able to pick this example to show from our university, and this was copied from the document we submitted to the World Bank. I just want to use it. So the language from the World Bank also, which, because it has also your strategic plan for the university, what does it say? Because the strategic plan of the university also mentioned that we want to show regional relevance across ECOWAS. So then they ask, how would that translate? So we have to look into doing a SWOT analysis for that. So I just copied this from that document. So if that is one of those domains we are looking at to say, OAU is a very forward-looking university in terms of providing leadership as a regional hub, in terms of training, in terms of research within the ECOWAS. that alone we can do the SWOT analysis. And I think Prof also tried to show some of those things. So this is what we have in that. So for instance, the strength in the university, for instance, because of time, I will just present, I think I can just pick like 1 or 2 points there. The second point, for instance, said that our strength is that we have great international reputation with consistent primary, national, and regional ranking. That is one of those things we consider to be our strength. And second to the last talks about the availability of robust ICT infrastructure to promote e-learning across the region. So we believe with these strengths, we are able to move further, to show more of our regional importance in teaching, in research across the region. So when we go into weakness or what they call challenges in UI, let me just mention 2 also because of time. Second to the last point talks about low regional studentship, staff population, and academic exchanges. Within the region, just to say that it's a major weakness because how many departments in the department can boast of across the region. So we also have, I think, about 5 opportunities, and these are things that we consider to be outside to us. Again, I will just mention like 2 because of time. I will mention the second one. We believe that OAU is close to industries. Many industries, we mentioned HUDRA, for instance, international and national research centers that we have, rectors, NACETEM, SAD, many of those that have the regional structure. We also talk about the high scope for expansion, territorial reputation, and also in terms of finance to support regional students and faculty. So for the threats, I want to look into 2 that really, yes, one of the threats we mentioned, the last point is about language barrier to attract scholars from Francophone speaking countries in the region, because many of us, we are Anglophone speakers. But one of those things also that we put there is to say that we have a center, for instance, foreign languages, where people can also learn, English or whatever language to foster this. But reflecting on some of those issues, it's about some of those what we call the emergency. And I think the last meeting we had here, we said that we should include a section in the strategic planning on how OAU is prepared for emergency. Emergency is part of things that we should learn, and taking clue from the COVID-19, which the previous speakers also mentioned, is that COVID-19 shows a clear example of systems that are well prepared for emergency and systems that are not well prepared. There was no hiding place. If you are prepared for it, then it just took some institution 1 or 2 months to get over the crisis, then they were able to transit immediately online. Some institutions suffer for like 1 year or more, to get prepared. So as an institution, we need to look into it. How do we therefore also look into doing a SWOT analysis to identify how do we get prepared, for this type of emergencies. With emergencies also are new opportunities as university, for instance, having virtual world, hybrid meetings. So that also opened up for us to start thinking, for system in terms of how do we respond, to emergencies. And also provide the opportunity for linkages and collaboration. This has been mentioned by the previous speakers. So when we do SWOT analysis, we're also looking into some of those issues. The librarian mentioned, for instance, how do we cover, I think she used a language called inclusiveness. How do we show that within our system we identify the diversity, people with challenges, all kinds of people? And also, how do we provide access, make things accessible, either in learning, either in research, in collaboration? So, We also need to think about participatory supervision as we are talking about transiting from or putting more emphasis on postgraduate training. We need to look more, into participatory supervision and what they do in other universities to see bringing industry-level knowledge, to join in supervision. I've been privileged also to, visit some of those universities. University of Waterstrand, for instance, somebody doing a PhD in mining, you may have your co-supervisor in the private, maybe working with not a university now, maybe working with a mining company, and they co-supervise, and that helps, to bring a lot of opportunities even to the university. We need to think of how we can be flexible. We just came back from AAU meeting. The Vice Chancellor also was there, and there was a big question that was posed to us. Can we continue to have Senate meeting the same way we used to have it? And you said you want to have a difference. Can we continue to discuss the same issues in Senate? And you said you want to compete, And we look at us and say, no, many things we have to change, in what we do, how we engage. Not just in Senate, even at faculty board. Can we continue to have the same kind of conversation? And we say we want to push for development. No, things must change. We have to bring some business, to discuss. So there must be room for flexibility for changes. Have long-term orientation based on relevance of what we do in terms of teaching, also in terms of research. And the question was asked, if people don't want to subscribe to a department, do we need to force them? Because it just shows something, maybe people are not interested, or the department is not very, very relevant in development. So many things we have to think about and see how those things will change. We have to adopt innovative educational approaches, taking advantage of ICT, and consider changing some of the youth culture. I want to stop at this, and I'll be happy to take questions. Thank you.
Please don't go down. Please sit on the high table there. Thank you very much, Professor Akinyemi. Please, we want to appeal. Professor, sir, you raised your hand for a question, sir. A comment. Please, we'll take as many questions as possible and comments after the next session. We will now quickly, I want to thank Professor Akinyemi again for that wonderful presentation. Please, a round of applause for Prof again. Session 3 is a pre-recorded presentation by Professor O.I. Aino. Okay. And she's unable to join us physically, and so she has done this recording. I think she's in transit, so that's why she could not even consider the option of a live virtual presentation. So we'll be taking this.
You make my dreams come true.
We'll be taking the first few minutes. To anchor this session, I want to again welcome Professor O.A. Showande, the chairman of this session. You're welcome again, sir. He will make a few comments, but before that, I'm going to ask the moderator of the last session to say one or two things, sir. Mr. Bakari, sir, please, you can stay where you are. I'll bring the mic to you. Thank you. Oh, okay, over here. So the moderator will make a few comments based on the SWOT analysis, and then we will take session 3. Over to you, sir.
2 minutes. Thank you very much. I'll try to compact myself within those minutes. Let me start by saying that all through since morning, we'll be talking around SWOT analysis. And the ultimate goal is fashioning out vision and mission, and how to make use of this as structuring principles to formulate our big dream for the future and how we're going to get to that big dream in the nearest future. We all agree that vision, mission, and SWOT are the structuring principles toward achieving what we want to be in the near future, and that by doing this, change is constant. We are trying to believe that the universities are timeless. The more you change, the more you remain. And we cannot afford to remain static. So that is why either we are going through the 5 years analysis or 25 years, what we're trying to achieve is the big picture, which is very relevant to our development. But over the years, from all I've been able to gather, the problem has been between role expectation and role actualization. We come out with beautiful ideas. At the end of the day, we don't follow up. So the problem has been with implementation, with follow-up actions. So now that we have identified the problem, because I've been involved in 2, or shall I say 1.5 strategic planning sessions in this university. People work very hard during the strategic planning. Very, very hard. Run up and down. But there's one thing that is missing, which was mentioned by Professor Bamiro. That aspect of motivation. We are here. It's good. You have been blowing grammar. And but can we really drive our dreams without fund? We need to go out. We need to attract funding into the university, especially when you're dealing with governments that is not so serious when it comes to education. So the structuring principle, whether it is clothed in SCOT or SWOT, is important. And as a result, we have to take into cognizance all the necessary things that we have to do to actualize our dreams in the university. Now, just a moment ago, Professor Akinyemi mentioned the UNESCO 2030 Declaration of Action and mentioned something like drive development, transformative and universal outlook, collaborative and dynamic quality standard, balancing between teaching, research, and community service, and all that. These are all good. These are all very important metrics. But then, I still want to emphasize the importance of funding our dreams. It is at the baseline of all development in every strategic planning. And I want to always take this into cognizance and not overlook it, funding, motivation, and all that. I was just, the director took me by surprise. I was just bidding my farewell to the university registrar. When I heard something like Bakar, I said, what? But I think it's a good thing. And I think this is a very good service to the university. I am not surprised. It's not the first time. We have very hardworking people in the system. And when it's time for strategic planning, you see people measuring up. But we must also think of funding at all times. Thank you very much. Sorry, just let me take 1 more second. Seconds, yes. Oh, 2 seconds. Let me just use this platform, sir, to apologize to Professor Adagunwodo. About 20 years ago, when I was in Senate, I was a small boy in Senate. I was trying to pronounce Adagunwodo, and I said Adagunwodo. Somebody slapped me, but now I can pronounce your name very well. So I want to commend your efforts over the years, And I want to say thank you very much for your institutional spirit at all times. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Registrar. Mr. K. Bakare, thank you again. We've had the comments from the activity 2. Once again, to remind us that your comments, your questions, please hold it. We will take them. While, with the kind permission of the chairman, sir, can we take a few minutes of the next presentation, session 3? Thank you very much, sir. And after which you will make your comments, sir. Please go ahead.
Protocol. Why I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Vice Chancellor and his team and the members of the OAU Strategy Planning Committee for the privilege of my being on this platform this afternoon. I also like to apologize that I am not physically present at this meeting. Circumstances beyond my control is responsible for this. Again, I also like to appreciate Professor Bamiro, the guest resource person from University of Ibadan, who has been a pillar for all of us and whose brew we have been drinking, for making himself available to attend to us at OAU. And I also is on teaching and learning domain. And I bring out key learning points and conclusion. So I ask the question, what is a strategy? A strategy involves getting goals, determining action to achieve the goals, and mobilizing resources to execute the actions. A strategy describes how the ends or the goal will be achieved by the means that we have, that is our resources, which can be both human and material. Strategy therefore can be planned, that is, it is intended, or can be observed as a pattern of activity, emergent issues, as the organization or university as ours adapts to its internal and external environment in a very competitive world. I also ask the question, what is the driving force of any kind of strategy like this? One is the desire to move to a better destination. This is where we are, but we'd like to move beyond where we are. And the second is the decision about taking the right directions. this is where we are, but how do we get to where we intend to go? There are too many roads, to go to Ibadan or to Lagos. So which road are we going to take? And then the third, destinations that are better than the present position is what we intend. So we need to be eclectic in making choice of what do we do and how do we go to this new destination. And that requires what we call strategic planning. Strategic planning is the process of defining organization strategy or direction, making decisions on allocating organization's resources to pursue this strategy, and identifying the control mechanisms for guiding the implementation of the strategy. Hence, strategic planning involves strategic formulation and strategic implementation. We also need to understand some features of a strategic plan. For example, what we call a wheel of success. The strategic plan moves an organization from its current position to a more desirable future in a competitive situation. And we have seen that in our webometrics. This year we are number 1, next year we are number 3rd, and we start to move like that. But what we want, if we had ever been number 1, why is it that we are not sustaining ourselves to continue to remain number 1, for example, in Nigeria? So we need some strategic planning and thinking in order to be more competitive and be better than the others. We also need to talk about time frame process. That is, that which is adopted as a medium to longer term plan that evolves over a period of time. So you give yourself a time frame. You cannot wake up today and tomorrow you achieve what you intend to achieve for the next 5 or 10 years. We also need to have a telescopic view. That is, its achievement involves vision. It involves objective, direction, and commitment, involving all elements of the organization or destination. We also have that is, successful strategic decisions are to match the organization's activity, resources, and realities. And it is also team-based. It's team-based. That is, it is complex and involves many stakeholders. In the university as ours, we have many faculties. Within a faculty, we have many departments. And everybody is driven by its own intent in terms of mandate and in terms of program. And everybody wants to be better than the other, even within the faculty. So how, first of all, do we team in a way that we agree to move the university forward with a goal that is group-based rather than individually based, so that our university then becomes competitive? So we then need strategic directions. And this strategic direction depends on the type of organization. It depends on the type of goal that we are pursuing, the pathways, the processes, and the outcome. Determining the best direction, therefore, or pathway to take involves understanding the unique situation facing each organization, each department, each unit, and in this competitive environment. And then we talk about our strengths, our weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This influence set goals, objectives, targets, delivery strategies, and skills required for implementation. That is just to let us know that it's a complex exercise, which we can make simple by the direction that we have taken, which then becomes a shared direction. So we need to follow a strategic planning process. So we need a process. And what is the process? The process is that we need to conduct a situational analysis or a gap analysis. So whether we are doing it for the overall university or we are doing it for a particular department or its unit, it starts by understanding the situation and drawing up gap. The gap is what is working and what is not working. How can we ensure that what is working continues to work, does not break down? And how do we make what is not working to work? So it is about purpose setting, envisioning, and missioning. and it's about formulation directions, and it's about priority setting and facing. It's about practical reform. We must reform. We must embrace change, and that change must be transformative. It's about, we can't hold on to a particular ideology for, oh, we were this 50 years ago, we want to hold on to it. The external environment is changing. And because there is change in the external environment, that in a turn can also change our priority ideology can be sustained. But the process of
That's the first, a round of applause, please, for Professor. That's the first part of her presentation. And we will now ask I'll bring it to you, sir. Or you want to come and stand? I'll bring it to you. So we will have the chairman of the session to make his comments. He will also tell us how we will access the other part of the presentation. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Without saying that the time is far spent, I still want to recognize the principal officers who are still here present, the DVC academics, the librarian, our extremely distinguished professor, and the only executive director in this university who has gone to treat us to what SWOT analysis is all about. Just a brief comment on that SWOT. Well, I think things have gone beyond the SWOT analysis now to so what? No, we don't want Scott. We want SWOT so that we can also say so what. Yes, and you can use the so to actually address the problem of the what, and that is one of the direction that this strategic planning is taking us. We are already thinking of our strength in terms of technology, and we've seen some challenges that strength can help us in the so what, manner. Sorry we had to stop at this junction, but what our dearly beloved and distinguished teacher was teaching us or telling us in that program is actually a very important aspect of the strategic plan. And you will have seen from Professor Olugbade's presentation that is something that seems to be lacking. Monitoring, evaluation, presenting a scorecard and all those things, which apparently we have not been doing. Although our talk was more to be focused on teaching and learning, but from the way she has even started taking us back to the basis of what strategy is all about and how we should go about what this is. What is going to happen is that this is just the first phase of the presentation. The whole presentation will be put on the platform of the Strategic Planning Committee, so we can download it and listen to it, and I'm sure there will be questions, areas that needs clarifications that we can also post back on that platform that we'll be ready to provide answers to. So another point that I thought I should just make is that I think Professor Olubade also mentioned it, and he said it's like he was thinking of the way to go, that entrepreneurship should not be this kind of vocational training that we are doing. And in the process of well, I don't want to start mentioning CCMAS because people will think I'm selling CCMAS. But it's not CCMAS. It's becoming something that is important, that every program that is taught will have an entrepreneurship component. So if you are doing economics, you have a course titled Econopreneurship or something like that introduced into the program, and that is where everybody is going now. So without wasting too much time, I want to thank everybody, and I want to thank the organizer for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Showande, for that very wonderful. Please don't go down yet. Still maintain your seat. We will now take questions, comments, and feedback from the floor. I recognize you, sir, Professor Farinde. Professor Yadola, are you also ready? Okay. Yeah, so please permit me to take him first. He had raised his hand before. So 1, sir, you are number 2, sir. Dean of Tech number 3. Librarian number 4. Professor Akiola number 5. Yes, but kindly make it brief, very, very short. So we have 5 persons that have raised their hand. Prof, sir, please, the microphone. Use this, it's louder.
Thank you so very much. Very quickly, this goes to Professor Olugbade, whom I thank for his presentation. And I think even beyond you, many other people said this today, lack of ownership of our strategic plans, poor performance of our strategic plans, poor monitoring and evaluation and all of that. Sir, I don't know how much attention we have paid. I think we have not paid so much attention to dissemination and domestication of our strategic plans in all previous years. I know they are very bulky documents, sometimes over 1,000 pages. They say, oh, it's on our website. So not many people are going to read 1,500-page document on our website, even internally, even in our departments, even the people we want to implement it. So as we go forward to planning a new strategic plan, I'd like to advise that when it is finally done, we plan to put it in very simplistic format, like policy briefs, as is done in ministries and other places, that people can look at quickly and see what they can do, what they need to do in departments and faculties and all of that. But if we are still thinking those 1,500-page documents on our website is what people are going to read and domesticate and help us to implement, it is still not going to happen. I will still come back here in 5 years talking about lack of ownership, poor performance, and all of that. So that's number 1 quickly. Number 2, and that's where I'm going to stop. I think it was the Vice Chancellor, Professor Bamira, I can't remember who did, talking about accreditation and the ability of our HODs and whoever is in charge in departments to hold their positions in the face of the people who come from outside and all of that. Yes, and I share and agree with you that it's not everybody who registers in a department on a certain day who is going to spend 30 years in that department who has the ability to be head of that department. We're not equally all endowed. But we say here, 3 years a professor, you leave. If you're not a professor, 1 year renewable, and then in UI today, one of the ways they've used to solve that is to, when they appoint a full professor whom they think is able to lead the department, the tenure is 4 years. And same thing for their dean, so that people who are sufficiently experienced and capable spend enough time stabilizing the department. And of course, if you're a non-professor, it's 2 years renewable, and then they drop that person. In the last accreditation of one of the councils that we have, nursing specifically in the College of Health Sciences, while I was provost, there was a senior lecturer, just like it was said, who is not able to hold his position, and then the people who came intimidated him. He gave them facts from the records, people who are on leave and their letters of leave while they were not around. But these guys were looking for something else. Specifically, they wanted monetary gratification, which you will not do. So they went to write a report to their council and said people were not available and they couldn't, the HOD could not tell them their whereabouts, account for them and all of that. Those things were not true. Many things they wrote. So I told the Vice Chancellor, I said, no, we're going to challenge this report because this report is not true. Let us write to the council, Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria. Leave me to it, I will write it, but you will sign, Mr. Vice Chancellor, once you are ready. And he said he was going to sign. And I wrote the rejoinder, and he signed, and we sent it to the Nursing and Midwifery Council. They sent a new team back here to come and do the accreditation all over again. And they gave us our 3 years full. And the people who came initially were very, very ridiculed because what they actually came to do was not right. So that speaks to why we must put people in place who are competent and who can hold their place for sufficiently long period of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How do we split the bulky document in consumable bites? Professor Farinde.
Thank you very much. I want to appreciate those who have spoken since morning. I want to start from where the last speaker, Professor Suande, that's about accessibility or access to the slides or the PowerPoint today. It was suggested that it's all member of that, I'm not sure, because I don't think I'm a member of that platform.
Okay, so in the course of this workshop, everybody that attended registered. Yes. So we will enroll everybody that registered into that platform.
Okay.
So that you receive
Thank you
the
very
materials.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Professor Akanin did mention, the presentation by Professor Aino is on the strategic planning from 2023 to 2027. And I've heard Professor Akanin speaking on 2016 to 2021. Why the gap? That's the question. Because 2 years gap now will be there. If we are talking of OAU strategic planning, then there is an issue raised on collaboration, particularly Professor Olubade, sorry for missing that name, and Professor Akani, are talking about the thing now or the trending issue of acceptance. It's a collaboration and then innovation and publication. If we'll agree that, but when it's come to OAU new criteria promotion, it's been graduated in terms of scoring. So if you are saying you are number 2 or number 3, and then you have contributed to innovation, publication, and flourishing of that project, then you are giving maybe 40% or 50%, where the first author is giving 80%. Are we not creating a demotivating factor when it comes to the new criteria? I think something must be done about that. Also, Professor Akwade talked about investments in agriculture, pointing to the Vice Chancellor as agri-economist and the Chief Executive Officer of this university. I'm the Dean, though I'm leaving. We have had series of collaboration, and even the projects you pointed out the other time. I think the issue is, because I have written, even the central bank wrote why we withdrew from the withdrawn our proposal. It happened during the tenure of Professor Ogunbodede. He said he wouldn't sign, and the bossa said no, that the university cannot commit themselves because we are a public university. And so the bank needs collateral, and the CBN will not give us any clue as to what to do. Even the letter of interest we wrote, we have not got any, because I made that suggestion. We are a public university. If you want to assist us, it's either by grant or you let it be a loan with, interest-free loan, So we have not gotten any reply. For us to collaborate and go into investment is a problem because we cannot use any of our building or the name of the university as collateral. So we have to look at that area. It's not limited to agriculture alone. Even in pharmacy, they cannot do it. It's a law, public law. I know the University of Ilorin benefited from that 600 million poultry project, but the Accountant General Office signed for them. But our university developed cold feet. We couldn't do that. That's another aspect. We have to go all out to contact people who can assist in that respect and then do the monitoring. Another thing is that presently, if you want to invest in anything, we cannot approach even the BOI, who is all out to assist any institution that want to go into investment in projects. Because I discussed that with the Vice Chancellor, and he said, we cannot as a faculty. So which way do we, what is the way out? Because as individual, there are limitations, we cannot do that. As faculty, we cannot do that. As institution, we cannot do that. So we have a lot of limitation in our law. So I want suggestion in this respect. And then departmental strategic planning or faculty strategic planning. Who is to fund? Because funding is a limiting factor. And another one, we have been talking of motivation. If you have been in this commitment for some years now, I wouldn't know when the university reward you, either monetarily or by presentation, but they say, thank you for what you have been doing. And I understand that people who have used their time throughout the university, their money and everything, and you retire at 70. The outside faculty is there, you are not giving your gratitude as. So people retire and die, no matter what they have put in service. So the whole thing, we have to look at it if we want people to be committed to what we are talking about on strategic planning. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very, very much. Can I take liberty? Chairman LOC, sir, Professor Dagodo. I want to commit the DVC academic. I'm not looking at her as I make this comment. Because honestly, the people that are seated here have sacrificed a lot. I want to commit the DVC to we are going to give something to everybody that has waited till the end of this program. I'm not sure what it is, but in appreciation, this is part of the motivation that we're talking about. I mean, I'm sure she's willing to give about 10,000 naira airtime. Yes. No, she's not going to say thank you. No, really. I mean, we are talking about motivation. But please, Secretary, please take note of everybody, please, that has waited till now. I think, sir? No, I mean, we need to, sir? No, please, let's take note of everybody that's waited till now. I mean, we need to appreciate everybody that has waited till now. Okay, number 3. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. And yeah, I was...
Sorry, sir. Please, just to take note, we are taking note of the questions. They are becoming long. Professor Lubade, please, are you taking note of some of those questions? From Professor Farnity, sorry. He talked about the gap. Sorry, Dean, sir, let me just, so that the gap in the strategic plan, the DVC academic, we take note of that. Issue about publication ranking, you know, I mean, the position in publication, this issue of collaborative publication, how do we address it? Investment opportunities in OAU limited by statutory laws, and how do we motivate departments and faculties to domesticate the strategic policy plans internally? So we're noting that. Please, sir, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the very beautiful presentation, including the virtual one, even though partially delivered. I will first direct the first question to Professor, the Executive Director. I can hear me. Yeah, I was looking at the topic, and I was expecting that some of our reservations, particularly with monitoring and evaluation, would have been handled under that topic. But looks like we centered mostly on SWOT. But having said that, I'm thinking that I was hoping that in the SWOT, can we get to know, like we do in accreditation, we're going to another strategic planning. What have we done with the shortcomings that we have found? Something like a situation analysis, you know, based on the previous strategic planning. Particularly, what were our key performance indicators? Have we met them? And so on and so forth. Then, joined to that question, is this recurrent question about the Quality Assurance Directorate? I think there is no way OAU can escape. We have always explained ourselves, and we have used our size and age to always bamboozle accreditors. In most of the private schools and state schools that we are quoting, they have a standard directorate of quality assurance, because that is where we can probably house monitoring and evaluation units. If we wrote all the books and there is nobody to remind the Vice Chancellor, for instance, assignments due to his office, or maybe you want to digitalize that so that there can be electronic reminders that will pop up and probably, so I'm just looking at that. Then tied to Professor Olugbade, thank you so much for the beautiful presentation. And I think the question of monitoring and evaluation has been stretched by so many. Number two question that I will ask is about this may also align to the librarian. When I came in when I went on economic pilgrimage, I know what they do. I was in Elizade, I was in First Technical University, and I know what all these people do. And they try to shoot up. The first time I got to Elizade, it was like, if you don't have your publications online, you're not going to get your salary. So everybody rushed to do that. The other school I went, the rule had been laid before I came. And I joined them midstream. And that was close to the deadline. So when the deadline came, I was not paid. I said, why am I not paid? He said, I don't have anything on the website. I said, when did that begin? They said it began before I came. Then I didn't know about this. So when I came back, I think this is one of the reasons that made me to vie for deanship. I didn't want to be dean, but I said, we're doing many things wrong. And the only thing I can do coming back is to give back my experiences in those schools. I went to my faculty. The total publication in tech is less than what one professor has as publication in the institutional repository. And I tried to beat that and then try to upload. And I saw that it was quite arduous putting your publication on our institutional repository. And so it became difficult for me to encourage others. And I want to say, except we find a way, motivation doesn't need to be positive all the time. It can be negative, just to get it done. Except we take the bull by the horn. By the time all these old professors leave the system, we have close to nothing in their memory on our institutional repository. So we need to fast track that. Up till now, there's no. I was going to insist that all publications for professorial cadre must be assessed from the IR. But you can't make that rule except it comes from the top. If you make that rule unilaterally, you'll be on your own. So I'm thinking in working the new strategic plan, we need to look at how to encourage self-archiving, whether by carrots or by stick. So then the other thing is about the culture of giving back. I know we try to discourage in this school, students don't do this, students don't do that, maybe because of government policy. And our students are made to believe that the school is to service them. So before they leave school, if there are some things they've been doing, they don't need to be very rich before they give back to school. But if that culture has been there, so I'm thinking in this strategic planning, how can we encourage our graduates, implants in them the culture of giving back to the system, so that whatever they have, however little it is or not, they'll be able to do something. Some of them who have done well, maybe not too buoyant, but with the spirit of giving back, I'm working currently on 2 groups. But what I had today almost discouraged me. They wanted to give some things back to school. If the money we have to go, and I told them whatever they give is going to be in perpetuity, that they're going to be using the interest. But with this TSA, money loaded somewhere, no interest, I hope I have not made false promises, because some of them are even ready to pay. So if they are going to pay now, and the interest is not going to be used, if the money is not invested, I need clarification on that before I conclude in getting their money. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Let me just inform us that all our questions, the sessions are being recorded. We're going to extract the questions and create a question list from this exercise so we can follow up in case we omit any answer. Thank you, sir. You are number 3 or 4? Okay. You are number 4, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you very much, everyone. May I try to add some things to the SWOT analysis? Okay.
Your addition.
Yeah, okay, okay. And see what obtains there. So let's become local champions. So we need to see what obtains regional, national, international. And I want to close with what Prof. have just said about the IR. Though I'm just coming in, but I think that even the issues of IR are marked or judged by policies. You don't do things without some policies. With a humble, if I present my case, I don't think I've gone less than to Senate thrice on IR, University of Lagos. And there are policies that guide staff president. There are policies that have been even entrenched in thesis publications. There are moratorium times that are given to you, after which your publication is thrown open and open access to the world. After 3 years, period of moratorium, it is there, it is signed and put inside the thesis of our postgraduate students. So there are issues that we have to consult and monitored by policies, and I hope we'll get there one day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just before number 5, Professor Lugbade, sir, let me add to the issues you will address. Well, I think it's mentioned before, what are some of there are some challenges with the coinage of the previous strategic plans. That's what she said, the librarian. Okay. Do we need to assess ourselves with external benchmarks, not just only internal benchmarks, and also the fact that most of our implementation may lack policies to back some of the decisions that the university puts out. Professor Koya mentioned issues about, she also mentioned funding sources, what's the best way to harness funding sources. Professor Koya talked about, we want to say 1 or 2 things. Quality Assurance Directorate, that the time has come for us to really start thinking about establishing a well-structured quality assurance unit in the university. Okay, so number 5, Professor Akiolama. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And I think she's the last person. Yes.
I want to appreciate all speakers in today's workshop who have made the program a successful one. The first one I want to talk about is the issue of inclusiveness, allowing everybody to get involved in the strategic planning process. Strategic management passed through many phases before they came up with the issue of coming up with 5 years or more plans. And that's why they believe everyone must be involved. From GM to GM, from general manager to gate man. So in any organization, everybody must be involved. And how do we, and the essence of this is for the document to work. You know, if everybody is involved, they will want the document that comes out of it to work. So how do we get everyone in this university to be involved so that the document that comes out of it at the end of the day will work? That's the first question. The second one is, when you have a 5-year strategic plan, we must find means of breaking it down. If you wait till the 4th year to assess or to monitor or evaluate, there's possibility that it may fail. So we should find means of breaking it down. After the 1st year, what do we intend to achieve? Let me use something to explain. Let's say in a company, your plan is to sell 120,000 cartons of Bonvita in a year. If you wait till November for you to assess, and you are seeing that you've just been able to sell 60,000 cartons, you know, 120,000 cartons means at the end of the 1st month, you must have sold 10,000. 2nd month, 10,000. So it means you have to break it down to know the number of cartons you can sell in a month. So at the end of this 1st month, you must find out whether you've been able to sell 10,000 cartons of Bonvita. If at the end of the 1st month you've not been able to sell 1,000 cartons, it means something is wrong. So you have to revisit everything. Is it the mission, the vision, the objectives, and all the processes of achieving it? So we have to break the strategic plans to years and even months if possible, if you want it to work. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Professor Akinola. She's talked about how do we get all stakeholders to come on board, and also how we can implement or monitor the implementation of the SP in phases for effectiveness. I'm going to start with DVC Academic, but there's a question on the timing of the strategic plan. Where's the microphone? Where are the boundaries of our 5-year strategic plan?
Okay, I'll thank God the VCs, but let me just say something. Yes, sir. It's 4 years. You know, we started with 2004. Sorry, sir. So 2008, then 2009 to plus 4. 2009 plus 4 is 2013. Then we have 20 omitted. Sorry, I think I have it here. So this was supposed to be 2021 to 2025. But when VC was making his presentation, he said it's left for this committee to decide whether we should stick to 2021 to 2025 or we start from this year, 2023 to 2027. So we are the ones that will decide. But I think there is a precedence. There is one that was to end in, that was 2004 to 2008. Then the next one, SP2, was 2011 to 2015. So we have this precedence already. So if you want to start from, because we have not really started, we have not concluded on 2021, then we now say it's going to 2027. Thank you. This sister.
Thank you, ma'am.
No, I think you've said what is in my mind. That was why I asked that question. But I think Professor Olugbade will help us out. But as you know, I threw out that question while making my presentation. Yes. That I colored that place red, SP4. Will it be 2021 to 2025? Or do we make it 2023 to 20? So it's left for us to decide at the end of the day. But just like DVC said, there's been a precedence. And if we want to follow that, fine. Otherwise, we may want to stick to that and then begin to look for a way of making up another one in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So we'll take
Professor Olugbade, you have so many questions.
Yes, yes.
I'm not sure.
Maybe I start
But
from.
I've been told to give you 2 minutes, sir. I don't know how you will
what?
cope.
Maybe I start from the last issue. I think my suggestion is to start from the current year and make it 5 years. As the introduction, we can refer to what we've done before, and the other one, because of some crisis, whatever, was extended. I don't think there's any problem for that with that. Otherwise, if we backdated it, that means the next one will soon be due. So, and it's not worth it. You know. Then on the issues, I think there are so many questions associated with the last strategic report. One was on dissemination of the report. The other one was on domestication. The other one was with respect that the library, that it is or not, the strategy is not deemed complete until the library takes that as a framework and decides its own target. So in other words, the only reason why those details are not there is because the library did not do its work. So otherwise there can not be any strategic plan that can anticipate the target every unit wants to reach. And the same thing goes for dissemination. So it's not that voluminous. I'm sure we have seen it. It's not that voluminous. So it's at best a framework. So we need it to take it, and that was what was not done. Actually, we need to take it back to the individual sector, and then you develop your own strategic plan. I think that is the most serious part of it. Then the other one is, she was talking, and there was issue about Gantt chart and milestone, not not evaluating periodically. In fact, you see the last one. It had milestones there. And it has, so in other words, for each activity, you can break down milestones. It's not when you complete it. You have duration. So in other words, if you said you want, and you know, because she's an accountant, so you want to sell, you are expecting to sell 20 crates of Coke in 3 years. You don't wait till 3 years to achieve it. So, but in your guide, you will say that your milestone is that the first year you will have sold 10. The second year you will have sold this. So, in other words, each strategic plan is like that. It's supposed to be like that. Okay. So, I think these are the pieces of information that we will need. Maybe what we Vice Chancellor will need is to encourage each unit to also have its own interaction. It may need some funding, like being had. They will have to have their own. After whatever we got from this exercise, at best, can only be a framework. It cannot go to the level of addressing what individual units need. And then the issue about external benchmark. I think, to be fair, I think everything we have done was based on external benchmark. Even from Professor Bamiro, you will see Harvard, you will see Malaysia. I'm saying it from memory of my world-class university. You can see that the only one that differed was the last one. That you set a smart target. If you are top-rated in Africa, then you will get there. So, because it depends on ranking that you are talking about. Professor Bamiro mentioned it. There are some of the ranking systems, especially the Shanghai. It's not a course. We cannot get there in 50 years. Because it's about Nobel Prize, and it's cumulative. Nobel Prize won by your alumni, Nobel Prize won by your staff. So in other words, it's not like a wish. So the idea was that you set a realistic objective for yourself. So I think to some level, there was a benchmark. Then the gap, well, I think we have solved the problem of gap. Then joint publication, again, I can claim with due respect, I can claim to be an advocate of this issue, probably more than anybody else on this campus, about joint publication, that the last promotion guideline that discourages collaboration. I even remember recalling experience with ACE program. Thank God, Professor Adagondo is here. In the ACE program, every publication is rewarded. Is the one that will earn the author the lowest mark. I find it strange. The problem about Nigeria that the proprietor itself, I don't understand the proprietor. How can you say a federal one? We are saying the same thing, you know. Otherwise, we should not give up anyway. And the quality assurance, only the Vice Chancellor can answer that. I think maybe I've covered all I have.
Thank you very much. I'm sure Professor Akinyemi, you have one or two things to say about questions.
Thank you, sir. I heard the VC saying quality assurance. I don't know if the VC wants to answer that question. I want me to say something. I don't know. I mean, Professor Olugbade should know more than me on this quality assurance process. I know there was a time so what we do at the faculty board, I mean, you should be engaging.
Competitive, in which Professor Aderomu were still here, because I believe that the Center of Excellence, that is a product of the World Bank initiative, is something similar. I mean, is along the same direction that if you want to address critical issues, we need to have stations that do that, not just in isolation, but dotting the entire landscape of the country. And OAU can put itself in the map, on the map of such similar interventions, even for the future. He also talked about various ranking criteria. We have a checklist of things to look out for as we embark on the journey of the strategic plan 4. Indicators that are SMART, model, and office. Currently, I'm not sure that we have that, but I'm not sure what happened along the line. I did not have that data. I had to start calling different kinds of people for them to be able to supply it. So we need to speak to issues on the university in real time at any point in time. Stakeholder engagement, we cannot overemphasize that. Then there's this equation of success that I have adopted for many years. Preparation plus opportunity equals success. Today we have listened to a lot of examples about how opportunities came knocking on the doors of various institutions, and they were only able to access those because they were prepared. A case in point is the 5.5 billion naira Professor Bamri referred to. I was just wondering, what if they did not have a strategic plan? What if they had one, but it was not worth presenting? That funding could have eluded them. So we need a ready shopping list. In fact, so the Chief Advancement Officer of the university is the Vice Chancellor. This shopping list is an advancement tool. Okay, those are summary of question and answers during that session. But in summary, or let me just jump to the top recommendations. We have listened to very wonderful presentations. My takeaway or my final words are how and when do we want to start to do these things? Obviously, they are beyond the Central Working Committee alone, and I was hoping that today we'll be able to inaugurate the subcommittees. I'm not able for doing all of these things, stakeholder identification and management. Some stakeholders for a particular committee may not be relevant to another committee. So we need to have a broad, a rich database that will capture everybody. Students, staff, faculty members, alumni. We're supposed to have an alumni representative. This is data architecture. Our Vice Chancellor said it, and it came up again in all the presentations that you cannot take informed decisions without data. So this data we are talking about, how do we want to organize it? Do we want to have a uniform template? Because I was telling someone that sat beside me earlier that if you ask all the faculties on this campus to present data of what has happened in the last 1 year, 2 years, and reconcile. So we need to have a template for acquiring our data, a time frame for interpreting to do with it such that when we need it at the click of a button, we can retrieve it. I'm aware that some universities, even though in other climes, they have what we call data warehouse. That is high-tech. That you have professionals, that are managing those data warehouses. And of course, the inputs they get are from service units. But they already have their things coded in such a way that it cannot jump from one line to another. You can always trace what is coming from where. And usually we would like to task the ICT units for this. I know they have majority of the work, but then it is a collective responsibility to have a proper data architecture warehouse for the university. I already talked about the shopping list, resource planning model, and a well-costed responsibility matrix. So, COVAD, where do we go from here? It is about time that we started to work on how to implement these things in specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound ways. I think for the sake of time, I will have to stop here and invite Dr. Tani Monore.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Permit me to stand on existing protocols because of time. Yeah. Now, I'm to discuss the second paper presented by Professor Olugbade. Yeah, let me just summarize. Yeah, Professor Olugbade took us through the last SP planning process. That is SP3. And the first question that came to my mind is, SP4, where are we? And I want us to know that the Central Working Committee had been set up. Not only that, I remember maybe sometimes in March, we were here we had a meeting, the maiden meeting of the Central Working Committee. And second time, we were here again to establish different subcommittees and sorry, I didn't, I've been going off and on, so I couldn't put the presentation in the proper. So let me continue. Don't worry, let me continue. So I said that the committee had been able to meet twice. The first time was the maiden meeting. Then secondly, we met here to identify various subcommittees. Our members had been asked to indicate, different areas where they can actually function. And I'm sure after this workshop, all hands must be on deck to ensure that the SP4 is well structured, and not only that, it is implemented accordingly. Also, Professor Olugbade identified a number of plans that never saw the light of the day, in the SP3. And I think we should be able to start from here. We want to actually look at what were the plan in SP3, those ones that were able to, that saw the light of the day, and those ones that were not able to see the light of the day, and see how we can actually move on from there. And I remember he mentioned that diversification of investment portfolio was one, the plan to invest into agriculture and some other investment possibilities that could actually serve as source of IGR for the university. So the new or the incoming WC, we have to look into this and see whether we can still bring all these investment portfolios into the university to serve as source of IGR. Then the subcommittee in the area of diversification and investment can actually look into this. Documentation of activities. He said that even from the departments, we do not document all the activities going on. And we know that data is precious thing, and it will last longer, even than the systems. Almost all the speakers today talked about data. And this is coming down to Director of Computer and the Hinteco, that under a kind of template that is uniform for all of us to make the analysis of this data easy, to bring out information from. The question is, how do we ensure that all the activities going on, stakeholders are well documented? We have to look at this as the new Central Working Committee are coming on board. Maybe we have a template from departments, units, up to the university level. Then also Professor Olugbade talked about lesson learned in SP3. He narrated the unimplemented follow-up activities needed to ensure adequate implementation. Now, most of those were not carried out. So I think this should be, we have to, the Central Working Committee has to look into this. Implementation, it is very easy to plan, but implementation, that is the problem, that we normally face. And all the speakers, they've talked about, implementation. So very strong and well-organized implementation team, they must be set up to ensure that all these plans are not only on paper, but they are well implemented. It also ran through the SWOT analysis, and it told us the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats of the university. And when Professor Showande was talking, I was thinking maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm the one that peeped into his discussion, or he peeped into mine, that I talked about Scots, that they don't have weaknesses, that they should have, that they have challenges. But we have to look away from SWOT and look at so what. And when we talk about so what has to do with looking at our strengths and our opportunities to actually solve the problem of weaknesses and threats. We'll be amazed that all that we need to address our weaknesses and our the threats that we have, they're actually embedded in all the opportunities and the strength that we have within the university. And because of this, he talked about stakeholder engagement, which is very, very important. We need to ensure that all the relevant stakeholders, are brought together. And I don't know, I was not part of the last SP3, but there is a recurrent stakeholder that people have been talking about, and these are the students. I don't know whether the students too were included. That this is very, very important. By the time, sometimes when I'm in class, I try to engage my students, and you see the kind of thinking, that critical thinking, ideas, innovative ideas that these students have. So I just want us to know that as we, bring all the stakeholders together, we must not leave our students behind. And I know that through them, we have a number of, problems that can be solved. They talked about institutional feasibility. He said that institutional visibility can no longer be ignored. He recommends that the new SP4 must, as a matter of fact, address correcting the underscoring of OAU in local and international ranking. So this should be, our target. That's, when Professor Akinola too was talking, Professor Aino was talking about, today OAU ranked this, next year, maybe we might have come down or go up. No, it's not stable. We're just moving up and down. We should be able to attain a stability that OAU, even when we should not even come down, we should be moving up. Then also he talked about endowment. And he said that, and I was just thinking that no doubt at this point, endowment in the university is one of the major sources of funding in universities globally. And the question that came to my mind is, how do we leverage on endowment to boost our university IGR? These are the things we have to be thinking about to ensure that we look into these aspects to endowments. You saw those big figures from universities abroad. It is possible here also. But Professor Olugbade also shared with us the challenges from the UK and issues of relevance. And he was talking about education becoming more expensive. This is true. I'm sure by next coming session, students may not be paying the same tuition they've been paying all those years. So more expensive. And if anybody is coming to you, to maybe to OAU or to UI, they want to look at what they stand to gain. He was talking about carrying out cost and benefits. All students will do that. And if you don't have anything that is unique or special that they can gain here, they won't come. And also, when Professor Showande was talking about each department must look into how they can bring the business aspect into whatever course that they are taking. He was talking about equal, premium. So we have to look into that too. He said, and I quote, as market forces become dominant, some courses may find it hard to get students unless deliberate efforts are made to integrate appropriate and relevant entrepreneurship modules Professor Showandi also iterated this. So in summary, strategic planning central working committee is that unless commitment is made, there are only promises and hopes. So I'm just telling us that we have to buckle our shoes and get ready to work. We have been told that it's a lot of work. You know, Mrs. Shegun said a lot was put in. And as we are putting, this, we're hard that we have not wasted our time and resources. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Okay. Wow. Professor Fanny,
mentioning the issue of data, and there are two units in the university, but one has been prominent, and one is here. Director of Inteco is here. Director of the planning, budgeting, here. So my question is, which of these two units is in charge of our database? And are they working together? Because there have been recurrence of asking for data from the department, faculties, every day.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Fanide, for that wonderful question. I know the VC will say something about it, but we will continue. But blood and flesh, the VC is still here with us. Vice Chancellor, we really appreciate you. And all our principal officers, we really appreciate you. It only shows that what we are talking about, what we have been talking about here since morning is a serious business. And we really mean it for this university, that this university will move forward. And so we appreciate you. And I also would like to, with the permission of the organizing committee, I want to appreciate Professor Mrs. Grace Akinola. She's a member. I want to appreciate Professor Sat Obiyan. He's a member. I want to appreciate Dr. E.A. Agbaje. He's a member. I want to appreciate our great secretary, Dr. Mrs. Vic Tanimonure. She's a member. And I want to appreciate the director of Inteco, Engineer Komi Adewara, is a member. And so before, the only, somebody was talking about, well, Dr. Mrs. So we just co-opted her into the, at most 3. Anyway, so please, the Vice Chancellor will still give a directive. An announcement will be made on the platform for us to please do that so that the working groups or the subcommittees can, it should have been inaugurated here today, but because many of us have not indicated our subgroups, that is why we are not able to do that today. But that will be done maybe virtually or in some other meeting. And so at this point, let me invite our Chief Executive Officer of this great university, who has been with us since morning, to come and really said.
Thank you very much. What do I say? I want to thank God. I really appreciate you all, really. I don't know where to really start. For the interest shown, for the concern for this great institution, and for all the contributions, your inputs. The sacrifice is enormous, and this is highly. There was a discussion around maybe the need to motivate people with maybe some amount of money. And I said, even that amount of money is not enough to appreciate this type of sacrifice. So it's my prayers that 15 around now, and I think the 15 is actually enough to get things moving. Because the 15 that I'm talking about that are here now are the eminent people that we have on. For me, I want to say that most of what we've been saying are things that we've been discussing, either one-on-one or with different groups of people, and we've been trying one way or the other to find ways of making use of those ideas that we bring on board. And I think we've been seeing the effect one way or the other. But I know with this strategic plan, the way it is starting, and the various speakers that have been able to give us some sort of insight into what we are trying to work upon, we'll be able to, we'll get there. But again, we should not forget that we are coming from a background. So the change cannot be all that so immediate and sudden. It should be a gradual sort of a thing. All this will need some bits of awareness creation, sensitization of the entire university community on what we are trying to do. Of the load lies on those that will be occupying various positions on campus. The heads of departments, the directors, deans, provosts, the VCs, the VC. We said data is key. Yes, data is really key, because if each unit actually takes it upon itself that data is required within within that unit to be able to perfect whatever decision-making exercise they are running through, then there will be no problem. But just like it's been said, there is a central point. You know, I was calling on the director PBM/MISU. That's the unit that's supposed to be giving us information about various things that are happening on campus. But like I told them, I said, you are just keeping this data. You are not making use of it. You are like supposed to be like an advisory unit to most of the units. That this is where you are moving, this is where you are. But I charged them, I said, see, let each of those units try to develop your template and give all the units. If they have some other inputs to make, they'll put in that template that you are forwarding to them. And then you must have done something. People will recognize that, yes, this unit is developer of this template, and this is what we are using all over. But the inputs can come from the other units as well. You know, it's like maybe you create 3-4 columns, and then others are now saying that, okay, there should be another column that should be there. That's how the thing comes. But if you just stay there, you just believe that you just collect information, you keep it with you, we are not sure. And that's why we always say the student population is about something. We should be categorical. What is the number at a particular point in time? We should be categorical. 25,000, 40,000, and so on and so forth. But we have that problem. We've also been talking about the component of synergy. There's no synergy in most of the units that we have on campus. The faculties, even the departments, not working together. I think I threw this challenge to many people with respect to this problem of shortage of manpower. When they started saying there's no manpower, I said, you have manpower. It's because we are used to recruiting people almost every year or something like that. It's become a tradition. So no component of thinking, real critically being creative on how best to make use of people. First, the security. I think the chairman security committee is here. We had a discussion. I was saying, when they were complaining, no manpower, I said, see, you don't need too many people on campus like that for the security unit. You can help yourself. It's good for you to have your eye in various departments and units in various sections. Just call for those who are interested in security matters. Already we know some people like that in the various faculties that are really interested in security matters. Call them. Environmental issues, you have people that will be interested to man any area. So you create those eyes there. They will be like your tentacles, and they will be giving you information about whatever is going on within any unit or department or whatever, and you make use of that. And again, well, the university is not static in thinking. The CCTV is there. In no long time, by God's grace, we will be covered all round. And that will be protective in itself, you know. But at least we still have this. Then I was just joking with them. Instead of bringing in all these team men that looks as if they've not eaten well into the security unit, get some people, the safety people, the bouncers. Get about maybe 5 or 6 of them. Okay? If you have to guide this place, for example, one of them will just stay outside there. One will just be looking like this with the goggle, looking at everybody around. Nobody will dare come to that area. But if they see people that are thin as myself, and then you want to face them, then see, this time calls for real creative thinking. Thinking in various facets, trying to work out strategies to hit the challenge. There are challenges. But again, those challenges, like I usually use this analogy, look at Ibadan there. We have challenge there, and we have ring road. So there's no challenge that cannot be met. You have solutions for. You can address any of the challenges anytime. You have alternatives, but you have to think through this thing. I want to say that we are really trying to be sincere to you. There are so many people that are working themselves out in various units, trying to ensure that at least we're able to get there. And I just want to continue to pray. This that we are trying to do is to document, ensure that we document most of these thoughts, these ideas, and be able to follow through. For us in this administration, most of the things that are in the past strategic planning documents, we are trying to implement little by little. And that's why you see the issue of the staff training development unit transforming into a directorate, the procurement transforming into a directorate, the no, it's coming up. The guidance and counseling also coming. I also learned of the quality. I didn't see that, but I know that after Professor Durosimi, Professor Hosseini was working on that document seriously with some other sets of people, but I charged the Central Office of Research to help us see that document through. It's just like Professor Olugbade said, we have a very, very robust document that talks about issues relating to disease quality thing. And then the maintenance policy I also saw in one of the strategic plans. There's no maintenance policy in this university, and it's not too good. Security policy, all these we want to cover up. And then, with whatever we are able to discuss and our focus for this particular one, we'll be able to address as well. But for me, if every unit is able to have a database for the unit, and we have the general one for the university, and if we are able to ensure that technology, and that's where you, thank you, the Dean of Tech, that you are still here, permeates every component of the setting in this university, we are done with all these challenges. And that is why I said harnessing data and digital technology for academic and research excellence. World Bank, being a world-class university, I don't think we have any problem. With respect to various ranking methods, there's no problem. As is, okay, let us look at all those methods. Let us harvest the parameters that are being used. And let us see to what extent we can cover up on each of those parameters. And we'll be somewhere. We'll be first in Africa. You know, unfortunately, I threw a challenge on my friend, the UI, the VC of UI. I said, well, I always see him first. And it was us to overtake him, or we overtake him by force. We laughed over it, but I meant it. And I said they should go to UI and see the distance between the, you have about 10 or something bumps before you get to that place. That's short distance. So why, for this long road that we have, Road 1, why wouldn't you have such a thing? I said, okay, no problem. It's very easy. I need information. CLO, I want you to get me statistics of the number of accidents that we have on our roads. And he gave me. And I showed it to some of those, the people that were saying that the accident on that road was terrible. It's like we were killing ourselves. And immediately we set us, we just said, let us do it, and let's see what will happen. Thereafter, I told them to go and check again. And they were telling me that the thing has been drastically reduced. So why do we have to kill ourselves? So I think data is very important. It helps us a lot to make informed decisions and to really justify whatever action we are taking at any point in time. Once again, I want to appreciate everyone. Professor Olugbade, thank you very much. I will not forget what you've been doing. I'm always very happy when I see you around, but you are always three. I thought the other two will follow you. But thank you very much. My regards to them too, because you've been working, you know, tirelessly, just to ensure that the system continues to move forward. So I want to appreciate you. Before I go to any other place, let me appreciate our council member that is here, Professor Faraday, because I don't want him to challenge me when in council meetings. But thank you very much for all what you've been doing, and incidentally, he's just finishing as the dean of my faculty, about to finish as the dean of my faculty. You still have some good days. So many things can happen within the days. So wish you all the best. Thank you very much. The chairman committee of deans. So the mere fact that we are not seeing deans here, most deans here, is because we have a very big representative. We represent 13 of them, but we have one of them because that one is from technology. Dean of Tech, thank you very much. You are welcome. Please, like we've been saying, we've been doing a lot of things on the ground. We just pray the thing will come up. We started with this issue of promotion, just, I don't know who pointed it in now, whether Professor Olugbade, that you can harvest publications from publications uploaded by staff, right from the, and then you monitor the thing. See, one thing, when there are issues, how do you solve those issues? There's this problem of, okay, no arrears in payment or whatever any longer. So what do you do? Then the target should be promote as when due. Because if you don't promote as when due, definitely people will be asking after their arrears, and you will not be assisting your members. And so, if we are doing a bit at the management level, the expectation is that at the departmental level, faculty level, they should also be doing their bit. But if we are able to get this tracking thing, nobody can keep anybody's paper, without reviewing. And the message has to be passed round that review, and it's annual review. Nobody should be exempted. Whether the person is to be promoted or not, the person must be reviewed. Because if the review process goes for that year, that is all. So that's me. So thank you very much. The Executive Director, Central Office of Research. Thank you very much. Well, it looks like most of what we've been saying here now hinge on you. And you have you have capable hands manning the directorates, IP, TTO, linkages, and then the University Research Office. Thank you very much. Mr. Olasami, the Advancement Officer. Yeah, so many things also hinged on you here. And so, you were asking some questions. I was watching you. I said, yeah, this is what you be doing from your own end. We need a database of most of our alumni. How you want to get it should be something that you should work on, the strategies. You have to work them out. And then we'll be able to move on. Professor Adewale, Odukoya, sorry for that. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Ms. Adedoko, thank you very much. University Librarian, former University Librarian, thank you very much. We appreciate you. Professor Abegunde, thank you. Looks like we are all tired. The director, double director, engineer, Adewara, thank you very much. We involve him, even at night, we call him to come and do some covers for us. We just help us thank Madam for all these problems that will cause you not to sleep when you are supposed to sleep. I want to really appreciate the organizing committee. You have done a very good job, led by our Archbishop of Canterbury, Professor Adagodo. We appreciate you a lot. And thanks for the coordinating DVC, the coordinating activities of our DVC ACAD. We appreciate you. Dr. Mrs. Tani Monure, and all in the house, I really want to appreciate you. Our PAs, our drivers, Ijebu, thank you very much. We appreciate you a lot. Our special photographer, we appreciate you. But please, we've been here since morning. We've done a lot. We appreciate everyone. Please, in order for this not to die down, let's ruminate over all that we have had today. let's begin to look at it in some. There are sometimes you take some risks, just to be able to get to where you are going. Let's ruminate over them. Give ourselves timelines. Because the period that we have when we receive information like this, when people speak to us and we are really happy and we are actually trying to see what we can do with what they've said, then the best thing is to act fast and then move ahead. So please, we need a timeline. That after this is what's going to happen. After this is what's to happen. How long will it take for us to complete this process? Because the discussion had been done, it should be bottom up. And we are discussing at this central level, then that means how do we get deep down there to individuals, community members, and so on? Well, the working committee, the central working committee this time around, I think will be able to help us get that so that we'll be able to move ahead. So again, thank you very much. Wish you all the best. And my kind regards to the family. Merci beaucoup.